All right, Nicholas Moreano up next as he was us. What are you holding there? Gummy bears?
Gummy worms. Come on
No,
now.
this is what Caleb Williams sponsors here. Trolley.
Yeah.
It's
Come
the
on
next
now.
big thing. We're celebrating here after the pro day.
And did you know, their factory is here in Illinois too. So, yeah, we're keeping dibs on you, Trolley. We want some gummy worms. Let's go.
Nick, you're a former wide receiver in high school. Nobody has better hands than you. How would you have done running today with Caleb? The balls were right there, were they not? What was your takeaway? Let's hear your side of things.
Well, I would say, as someone who did play wide receiver in high school, like running out routes, it's all about timing, precision. I thought that's where Caleb Williams was at his best when throwing the football. It was on time. The passes were accurate. There was speed on them. And you didn't have to see many of the receivers have to adjust much when you're coming out of that outbreak, just right there in the pocket. So that was really nice to see, and that was just one of the things that I was paying attention to. I was watching Caleb Williams. Then obviously everyone saw the deep throw to Brenden Rice. I don't even know how the exact yardage on that, but he missed Brenden Rice a little bit earlier in the practice. So I'm glad those two got to connect right at the very end there. But I think as advertised from Caleb Williams, and even before like the actual practice had really started, just nonchalantly throwing to each of the guys with his left hand. I think just to kind of show like how comfortable he was despite everyone watching. Obviously a couple of his teammates were going and doing some of the drills prior to him throwing, but hey, let me just throw with my left hand, give it to each guy, not make it too big of a moment because obviously he knows how important this is. But, Caleb Williams, he showed out.
Now, as far as, you put here on Twitter, Caleb Williams has been really accurate when throwing out-breaking routes, as you just mentioned. Timing and accuracy have been on point. But as we know, a big part of timing, here with the last couple quarterbacks is about your drop. And it's about your, the way the ball comes out of your hands and your delivery. So from your vantage point within the pocket, not after the ball has come out of his hands, but within the pocket, what were your observations?
Yeah, I think the correct word is just smooth. Like, Caleb Williams drops back. And then obviously in this controlled setting, he knows where he's going to go with the football. There wasn't much simulated pressure, but it just looked smooth. Like it's not having to be forced out of him. And you could just tell that it's just a natural kind of thing for him to do. So regardless if it is an outbreaking route or if someone's running a seam up the middle of the field, or there are a couple of throws where Caleb goes through his drop back, he's looking right on purpose, comes back to the middle, and then throws to the running back in the left flat. Like that it just comes really natural to him. So I would describe it as that smooth and just natural.
If you were to nitpick, Nick, what percentage of balls that Caleb threw today were right there in stride?
So I think it might be easier for me to almost go and say which ones weren't. So there was a deep ball, I think to Taj Washington where, Taj had to kind of slow up a little bit for it. So that's one. There's also one of the outbreaking routes where Taj had to make a nice catch, extend his arms to catch the ball, but that would be another one. And then obviously I talked about Brenden Rice. So if he threw around 50, maybe 3 to 4 were not where they absolutely need to be, and 2 of them were caught. So, I mean, you're seeing Caleb Williams, the accuracy shows up, the timing shows up, the ability to throw from different arm angles, and obviously the arm strength like we're watching on the last throw of the practice. So, yeah, it was like around four passes at most where they weren't perfectly on point. So right. I would say that's a pretty good day.
Yeah, I would say the deep ball to the left side, deep downfield to Washington, he did have to slow up, but I don't think that was the worst ball he threw. The one to the right side on the outbreaking route, it was thrown behind. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to just call it for what it is, but again, it's one pass out of 50. So I'm not trying to make any grand proclamations out of it, but just calling it for what it is. And Caleb Williams, when he was interviewed by Steve Weish, Steve asked Caleb how he thought his day went, and he didn't start with what he did right. He immediately started with what he did wrong, and he said the 1 to 2 passes deep that we didn't connect on, and I think I threw behind my receiver a couple times, maybe once, and I think that was the one he was referring to. So that kind of attention to detail, I think, is also important.
Yeah, just perfectionist, right? I think, when Caleb was probably envisioning this day, it's like I can make every single one of these passes, and I should be able to, but things happen. And, sometimes obviously running routes on air, like it should be, an easy thing to do. But I also think like when you're preparing for an opponent, you're expecting someone to get jammed at the line of scrimmage and you're trying to time things off of that. So there's going to be a couple passes that are off the mark. But like I said, when I came into this is actually my first pro day that I get to cover and not knowing what to exactly expect, but seeing how Caleb operated, the throws that he could make, what he's capable of making. And we didn't even see like any of the wild, crazy arm angles that we've seen in games. But, I think he did what he needed to do today. And that was just show out the arm strength.
What stood out behind the scenes, Nick?
I mean, when you're looking, obviously not on the field, just so many interactions are happening. Shane Waldron and Cliff Kingsbury, they're talking it up. And, they were talking for, a good minute there just on the sidelines. Who knows about what, but they were discussing things. Keenan Allen was with Matt Eberflus for a long time, just kind of on the side, obviously getting to know his new head coach. And yes, Ryan Poles is, not too far away from him. Ian Cunningham's right there. But
trying to come up with a nickname for Keenan, right?
That's right. I mean, he needs to come up with something because everybody on the team has an awesome nickname. So I'm sure they'll figure out something soon here. But you're just seeing again, it's like we've been a part of this, being at the NFL Scouting Combine, all the NFL worlds kind of collide and seeing all these people kind of meet up and kind of get reacquainted with each other. But you're just seeing all these interactions happening. And, if you could just be like a fly on the wall and hearing exactly what they're saying, that'd be great. But yeah, just the Bears obviously had a heavy amount of people here, as they should. Kerry Joseph, the quarterback's coach, was also here watching along. But yeah, you're just kind of seeing all these different interactions happen. And obviously here for the main thing, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I mean, a large contingent of Bears brass there that we all know and recognize. And you mentioned Cliff Kingsbury. I'm curious, I know maybe it's not as easy to recognize people outside of the teams we cover, but did you get any kind of inclination of how many other teams around the NFL were there to see Caleb Williams and like who had larger contingents as well to come see him?
Good question, Greg. And so I know in the beginning I saw Green Bay was here. I saw the Houston Texans. Saw someone from the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm pretty sure there was at least one person from every single team here. But, who had more of a representation? No one's going to have as much as the Bears here, but that would be tough to say. Just kind of given that some people were kind of spread out a little bit behind where the throws were happening. Some people were off to the sidelines to the left. Some were on the opposite sideline. So kind of tough to tell who would come in second, but Bears were clear favorites here in terms of who had the most representation.
One of the comments that on NFL Plus they were talking about was that, and I forget who said it, so my bad on that, but somebody compared him. He's like, hey, everyone says Patrick Mahomes, but he's a lot more like Russell Wilson to me. A better Russell Wilson is how it was put. What do you think of that comp, Nick?
I mean, I think you see both though. Like some of the throws that you see in game, you're like, well, that is Mahomes X. But then also, I could see the Russell Wilson comparison as well. But, I think for me, just what you've seen on tape and just some of those flash plays, maybe it's a flash plays are more Mahomes, the more of the basic kind of every other type of plays, more of the Russ. So maybe I could see that being a fair comparison to both players. I heard you guys were talking about, like, the size real quickly about Caleb when Adam was on. I can tell you that guy has some ham hocks for leg, guys. So he's got leg definition. He's built to the ground. He's sturdy. So if someone's trying to do that like an ankle tackle, like we've seen it. Everyone's seen it who's watched his film. Like he will break through those types of things. So he might not have, I don't know, quote unquote, like the elite height, but like he's sturdy, especially in his lower legs. He does not skip leg day. Good for Caleb Williams.
And we were talking about the hand size before. Kenny Pickett, who the Steelers just got rid of, 8.5 inches. Joe Burrow, been to a Super Bowl, off to a pretty good start in his career, 9 inches. Caleb Williams, 9 3/4. It comes in all sizes. I like that he's got big hands. It's you can do it the other way, but I enjoy it. Big hands is a good thing. All right, I guess Hoag's got one more thing for us, so you're going to have to put him back on. But Nick, final takeaways, your first pro day. I think it's super cool that you got to do this. Awesome coverage as always. You're the man. Give me your final takeaways here as you come out of this.
Well, here, I'll share kind of this behind the scenes, what happened for yesterday. I booked an Airbnb to get here, you guys. It was a very, very cheap Airbnb. Like, okay, got this, perfect. I did not read the fine print because when I rolled into my Airbnb around 11 o'clock at night, I wasn't the only one in there. It was bunk beds with people in there. I'm like, holy crap. Is this like a hostel or something?
A hostel, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I go in there and like, all right, I don't feel comfortable sleeping here right now. Go down in the basement, which is where the guest place is at. It was actually a nice like location, but that was weird. So I go in the basement, guy's just rolling up joints. He's like, man, I made like $4 million, but I'm here now. I'm like, you're lying. If you're paid $4 million, you wouldn't be here right now. But I'm just there trying to edit some stuff. Then I finally go back up to the hostel. Everyone's snoring. The guy above me, Jesus Christ. I thought I was a bad snorer. You can attest to this, Mark. Blows me out of the water. I eventually fall asleep. I'm the first one up, shower, get the hell out of there. And here at the pro day, ready to go.
Wow,
so that was
the things we do.
The crazy experience before covering Caleb Williams pro day.
It's a good behind the scenes. We don't have time for it today because this is a big show, but one day I will talk about my first midlife crisis where I did travel through Europe and stayed in all those type of places when I was 30 years old, which is older than what Nick is right now. And I met some great people and had some great fun. And I'll always remember you, Louisa. All right. Thank you.
Great wingspan.
She was fantastic. Hey,
big hands.
Yeah. Nothing happened. We
Sure.
Yeah, so it was phenomenal.
We all silly like the mayor.